Sing this Mozart, and I'll marry you, Billionaire's son joked. Maid's daughter's voice froze everyone. Let me tell you about a girl who lived two lives. By day, she was invisible. A shadow in a worn-out uniform, moving through hallways filled with laughter that was never meant for her. But before the sun rose, in the darkness of an empty auditorium, she became something else entirely. Something powerful. Something free. Her name was Maya Chen, and this is her story. Picture this. It's 4:30 in the morning. The world is still dark. Most people are deep in their dreams, wrapped in warm blankets, lost in sleep. But not Maya. Her alarm clock screams into the silence of her tiny bedroom, and she forces herself awake. Her body aches. It always aches, but she doesn't have time to feel sorry for herself. She has work to do. She pulls on her faded blue work uniform, the one that smells faintly of cleaning chemicals, no matter how many times she washes it. She ties her dark hair back into a simple ponytail. She doesn't look in the mirror. There's no point. No one will see her anyway. Maya lives with her mother, Linda, in a cramped apartment above a dry cleaner in the old part of town. The apartment is small, so small that you can stand in the kitchen and touch both walls if you stretch out your arms. The windows are old and drafty. In winter, they let in the cold. In summer, they trap the heat. And always, there's the smell of chemicals rising up from the shop below. That smell is the smell of home. Her mother is still asleep when Maya leaves. Linda works two jobs, cleaning houses during the day, stocking shelves at a grocery store at night. She falls asleep in her chair most evenings, still wearing her uniform, too exhausted to make it to bed. And that cough, that terrible, dry cough that never seems to go away. Maya hears it even when her mother tries to hide it. On the kitchen table, there's always a stack of envelopes. White ones, manila ones, and sometimes the worst ones, bright red. Medical bills. They pile up like a mountain Maya can never climb. Every time she looks at them, she feels a tightness in her chest, a weight pressing down on her heart. But she pushes the feeling away. She has to get to work. Maya walks through the dark, empty streets to Crestwood Academy. It's a 20-minute walk, and in the winter, the cold bites at her cheeks. In the spring, like now, the air is soft and the birds are just beginning to sing. She likes this time of day, when the world belongs to no one. When she can pretend, just for a moment, that she's anyone she wants to be. Crestwood Academy. Even the name sounds expensive. It sits on a hill overlooking the city, a sprawling campus of old brick buildings, perfectly manicured lawns, and marble statues. This is where the children of millionaires and billionaires go to school. This is where future senators, CEOs, and celebrities learn algebra and literature in classrooms that cost more to furnish than Maya's entire apartment building. And Maya? She's there because of a scholarship. The Sergeant David Chun Memorial Scholarship, named after her great-grandfather, a war hero from decades ago. He'd saved lives, shown extraordinary courage, earned medals. After he died, the town set up a small fund in his name. Just enough to send one of his descendants to Crestwood. For years, no one used it. Maya was the first. The scholarship covers her tuition and books. Nothing else. Not her uniforms, not her food, not the medical bills. So Maya works. She cleans. She serves. She disappears. She lets herself into the school with a staff key. She's been given access because she's part of the janitorial crew. The hallways are dark and silent. Her footsteps echo on the polished floors. For 1 hour, from 5 to 6 a.m., the school is hers. Well, not entirely hers. Because there's one place she goes. One place that matters more than anything else. The main auditorium at Crestwood is breathtaking. It's a grand space with velvet seats, perfect acoustics, and a massive stage framed by heavy burgundy curtains. During the day, it hosts assemblies, performances, and important events. But in the early morning darkness, it belongs to Maya. She pushes open the heavy double doors and steps inside. The air is cool and still. There's a single light on the stage, a ghost light, they call it. A lone bulb on a tall stand, left on for safety, casting a pale circle of light in the center of the stage. Maya walks down the aisle, her footsteps soft on the carpeted floor. She climbs the steps to the stage and stands in that circle of light. For a moment, she just breathes. In and out. Slowly. Deeply. And then she sings. Her voice rises into the darkness, filling the empty space with sound. It's not loud or showy. It's pure and clear, like water from a mountain spring. She sings the songs her grandmother taught her, Old songs, beautiful songs, songs in languages she barely understands but feels in her bones. Her grandmother, Lily, had been a singer. Not professionally, not on grand stages, but in the kitchen while she baked bread, in the garden while she hung laundry, in the small living room on Sunday afternoons. Lily had a voice that could make you cry or make you laugh, sometimes both at once. She'd taught Maya everything she knew. "Your voice is a gift, Maya," Grandma Lily used to say, her wrinkled hands cupping Maya's young face. "Don't ever let anyone put it in a box. Don't ever let them make you small." Lily had passed away 2 years ago, but her voice lived on in Maya. Every morning, in that empty auditorium, Maya sang for her. She sang for herself. She sang because it was the only time she felt whole. When she sang, she wasn't the janitor. She wasn't the scholarship kid. She wasn't invisible. She was powerful. She was free. She was enough. At 6 a.m., she stops. The spell breaks. She changes out of her work uniform and into her school uniform. A plain white shirt, navy skirt, and worn-out shoes that pinch her toes. Then she heads to the cafeteria to serve breakfast. She stands behind the counter, spooning scrambled eggs onto plates, pouring orange juice into cups. The students file through, laughing and chatting, their designer backpacks slung over their shoulders. They don't look at her. They don't say thank you. To them, she's part of the furniture. And that's how Maya survives. By being invisible. Until the day she made a terrible mistake. The day she spoke up. It was a Tuesday morning, third period. Advanced Music Theory with Mrs. Victoria Shaw. Mrs. Shaw was the head of the music department, a sharp, elegant woman with perfect posture and expensive scarves. She taught only the advanced students, the ones who'd been taking private lessons since they were 5 years old. Maya was in the class because the scholarship required her to take a certain number of electives, and music theory fit her schedule. She always sat in the back row, always kept her head down, always stayed silent. The classroom was bright and modern, with a huge screen at the front and sleek desks arranged in neat rows. Mrs. Shaw was teaching them about Mozart's The Magic Flute, specifically the famous aria sung by the Queen of the Night. On the screen was the sheet music, a dizzying array of notes climbing higher and higher, ending in a series of impossible high Fs. "This," Mrs. Shaw announced, her voice crisp and authoritative, "is the pinnacle of coloratura soprano. It is a test of vocal agility and profound emotional depth. Very few professionals in the world can truly master it." A hand went up. It belonged to Ethan Blake IV. Ethan Blake was everything Maya was not. Tall, handsome, effortlessly confident. His family's name was carved into the stone above the entrance to the new gymnasium. His father was a billionaire, a tech mogul whose face appeared on magazine covers. Ethan wore his privilege like a second skin, comfortable, unquestioned, natural. "Mrs. Shaw," Ethan said lazily, not bothering to sit up straight. "Come on. No high school student can actually sing that. It just sounds like screeching, like a cat in a blender." The class laughed. It was the easy, automatic laugh of people who knew who the alpha was, who knew which jokes were safe to enjoy. And that's when Maya made her mistake. "It's not screeching," she said quietly. The laughter stopped. The room went dead silent. 24 heads turned in perfect unison, all eyes landing on her. Maya's face immediately burned. Her hands went clammy. She hadn't meant to speak. The words had just slipped out. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. And he was really. He'd never bothered to learn her name. She was just the girl who sometimes wiped down his table in the cafeteria. The girl in the hallway who always looked down. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, a slow, cruel smile spreading across his face. He was enjoying this. "What did you say?" Maya swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed at her to apologize, to shrink back into her chair, to disappear. But something in her, maybe Grandma Lily's voice, maybe Sergeant Chen's blood, made her lift her chin. "I said it's not screeching," she repeated, her voice shaking but clear. "People mistake the high Fs for noise, but they're not. They're the climax of the Queen's rage. It's pure fury. It's supposed to be sharp. It's supposed to hurt." The silence was thick and heavy. Mrs. Shaw looked deeply annoyed. She didn't like interruptions, especially not from scholarship students who should know their place. But Ethan? Ethan looked delighted. This was new. This was entertainment. Ethan stood up slowly, like a predator rising to its full height. He walked to the front of the room, right past Mrs. Shaw's desk, and picked up a thick, dusty book of obscure 20th century compositions. He made a show of flipping through it, humming thoughtfully, building the moment. He stopped on a page, and then deliberately he tore it out. The sound of ripping paper was shockingly loud in the quiet room. Mrs. Shaw gasped but said nothing. She should have stopped him. She didn't. Ethan walked down the aisle toward Maya's desk. Every eye in the room followed him. He dropped the torn page onto her desk. It landed like a verdict. Maya looked down. The music was a nightmare. Dense, dark, chaotic. Strange symbols, impossible leaps, lyrics in a language she didn't recognize. At the top, in faded print, was the title, Requiem for a Fallen Star. "Fine," Ethan said loudly, turning to address the entire class. His voice was smooth and mocking. "You know so much about music. You know so much about rage." He leaned down close to Maya, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that everyone could still hear. "Sing this at the Founders' Day competition." He paused for effect. "Sing this at school and I'll marry you." The room exploded. Students pulled out their phones immediately, cameras pointing at Maya, recording her humiliation for social media. They laughed and whispered and nudged each other. This was the funniest thing that had happened all week. Maya's face went pale. Her blonde hair fell across her eyes. She stared at the impossible notes on the page, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Mrs. Shaw cleared her throat. "That's quite enough, Mr. Blake. Miss Chin, please dispose of that and pay attention." But Ethan was already walking back to his seat, high-fiving his friends. The bell rang. The class filed out, still laughing, still filming, still talking about the janitor girl who thought she knew better than Ethan Blake. Maya sat frozen in her chair. She looked down at the torn page. Requiem for a Fallen Star. A piece designed to break a singer. A piece meant to humiliate her. She picked it up with trembling hands and folded it carefully. She put it in her bag. She didn't know why. She should have thrown it away. She should have let it go. But something wouldn't let her. That evening, Maya was on her knees in the same hallway where Ethan had mocked her, scrubbing a stain from the polished floor. Her back ached. Her hands were red and raw from the cleaning chemicals. The school was empty now, everyone gone home to their big houses and warm dinners. She finished her shift at 7 p.m., packed up her supplies, and walked home under the streetlights. The torn page of music was in her bag. It felt like it weighed 50 pounds. When she got to the apartment, her mother was asleep in the chair, the television casting a blue glow over her tired face. Linda was still in her maid's uniform. She'd been too exhausted to change. On the kitchen table was a new envelope. Bright white. Unopened. From the hospital. Maya looked at it for a long moment. Then she went to her room. It was barely bigger than a closet, just enough space for a narrow bed, a small desk, and a lamp. She sat down and pulled out the music. Requiem for a Fallen Star. She stared at the impossible notes, the strange symbols, the foreign words. "He thinks I'm nothing," she whispered to the empty room. "They all do." She thought of her great-grandfather, Sergeant Chin. His portrait hung in the town hall, a stern, dignified man in uniform, his chest covered in medals. He'd faced impossible odds and refused to back down. He'd saved lives when everyone said it couldn't be done. She thought of her grandmother, Lily, and her favorite saying, "Your voice is a gift, Maya. Don't let them keep it in a box." And slowly, in the quiet darkness of her tiny room, something cold and sharp began to form inside Maya's chest. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was anger. Pure, focused, burning anger. She looked at the music again. "He wants me to sing this. He thinks I'll fail. He thinks I'm a joke." Maya sat at her small desk, turned on her lamp, and began to study. Note by note. Symbol by symbol. Word by word. If Ethan Blake wanted a show, she would give him one. But it wouldn't be the show he expected. What Maya didn't know yet was that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. That torn page of music, the one meant to humiliate her, would become the very thing that set her free. But first, she would have to decide. Would she stay invisible, or would she finally let the world hear her voice? Stay with me. This is where everything changes. The next morning, Maya walked into Crestwood Academy with her head down, just like always. But something was different. Inside her bag was that torn piece of music. Inside her chest was a question she couldn't shake. What if I could actually do this? It was a dangerous question. A foolish question. But it was there, burning quietly like a candle that refused to go out. And then she saw the banner. It was hanging in the main hallway, impossible to miss. A huge, elegant banner in deep blue and gold, stretching across the marble wall above the trophy cases. Founders Day Talent Competition. Grand Prize, the Meridian Scholarship. Full 4-year scholarship to Manhattan Conservatory. All expenses paid. Maya stopped walking. Students flowed around her like water around a stone, but she couldn't move. She just stared at those words. Manhattan Conservatory. The best music school in the country. Maybe the world. It was the kind of place Maya had only seen in videos online. The kind of place where real artists were born. Singers who performed at Lincoln Center, at the Met, on stages across the world. It wasn't just the school, though. Below the main announcement, in smaller print, was something else. Prize includes $50,000 educational fund for living expenses and materials. $50,000. Maya's breath caught in her throat. That money could pay off her mother's medical bills. All of them. The white envelopes, the manila envelopes, the red ones. It could give her mother time to rest, time to heal. It could give them both a chance at a real life. This wasn't just about music anymore. This was about survival. But there was a problem. At the bottom of the sign-up sheet posted on the music room door, in small but unmistakable print, were 5 words that made Maya's heart sink. Faculty sponsor signature required. Mrs. Victoria Shaw would never sign for her. Never. Maya had embarrassed her in class, and worse, she'd been right. Mrs. Shaw didn't forgive being corrected, especially not by a scholarship student who cleaned toilets. Maya stood there, staring at the sign-up sheet, feeling hope drain away as quickly as it had come. And then she remembered. There was one other music teacher at Crestwood. Mr. Thomas Green. Mr. Green's classroom was in the basement, as far from Mrs. Shaw's bright, modern studio as you could get. It was a cramped, dusty room that smelled of old coffee and older sheet music. The piano in the corner was out of tune. The shelves were crammed with vinyl records, broken metronomes, and stacks of papers that might have been there since the school was built. Mr. Green himself looked like he'd been there just as long. He was tall and stooped, with gray hair and sad, tired eyes. He taught music appreciation to students who just needed an easy elective credit. He'd been at Crestwood for 40 years. He'd seen generations of rich, entitled children pass through his classroom, and it had worn him down to nothing. Maya found him after school, alone in his room, sorting through a cabinet of old records. "Mr. Green," she said quietly from the doorway. He grunted without looking up. "What is it?" I need a signature. For the Founders Day competition. I need a faculty sponsor." Mr. Green stopped sorting. Very slowly, he turned around and looked at her. Really looked at her. "You're Maya Chun," he said. "The girl from Mrs. Shaw's class. The one Ethan Blake made that wager with." Maya's face burned. "Yes, sir. You want to enter the competition." It wasn't a question. His voice was flat, almost disappointed. "Yes, sir. It's the scholarship. The Meridian Scholarship. I need it." Mr. Green let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Child, do you have any idea what you're asking? That scholarship isn't for people like... It's not for beginners. The competition is a Shark Tank. Mrs. Shaw is the head judge, and she's already chosen her winner. Probably Brooke Ashford or Ethan himself. They'll eat you alive." "I don't care," Maya said, and she was surprised by the strength in her own voice. "I have to try. My great-grandfather didn't back down from impossible things. I won't either." Mr. Green studied her face. "David Chun. You're one of his. He was my great-grandfather." Something flickered in Mr. Green's tired eyes. Everyone in town knew the story of Sergeant David Chun. A hero. A legend. "All right," Mr. Green said finally. His voice was rough. "You want my signature? You earn it. I won't sign my name to a joke. I won't let you be humiliated again." He walked over to the old piano and placed his fingers on the keys. "Sing this." He played a simple ascending scale. Just 8 notes. Basic. Maya took a deep breath. She centered herself, the way Grandma Lily had taught her. She thought of the empty auditorium at 5 a.m., the ghost light, the feeling of being whole. She sang the scale. Mr. Green's hands froze on the keys. It wasn't just that her pitch was perfect. It was her tone, the texture of her voice. There was a richness, a warmth, a natural power that he hadn't heard in God, how many years? He played something more complex, a difficult arpeggio, full of unexpected intervals. Maya sang it back to him without hesitation, flawlessly. Mr. Green turned on the piano bench and truly looked at her for the first time. He saw the worn-out shoes, the frayed uniform, the exhaustion in her young face. And he saw the fire. "Good Lord," he whispered. "How long have you been singing?" "My whole life, sir." He grabbed a pen and scribbled his name on her sign-up form, his hand shaking slightly. "The auditions are this Friday," he said. "It's not just me. Mrs. Shaw and a guest judge from the school board will be there." "What should I sing?" Maya asked, clutching the form like it might disappear. Mr. Green glanced at the music bag on her shoulder. He could see the edge of the torn page. Requiem for a Fallen Star. "Not that," he said sharply. "Not yet. That's a weapon. You don't bring a cannon to a knife fight. You bring something sharp and perfect." He rummaged through a stack of music and pulled out a simple, elegant piece. "This. It's by Eric Satie. J.T. Ver. It's simple. It's honest. There's nowhere to hide. They're expecting a child. You show them an artist." Maya took the music. Her hands were trembling. "Thank you, Mr. Green." "Don't thank me," he grumbled, turning back to his records. "Just don't waste my time." But as Maya left, he stood there in the empty basement room, staring at the piano keys, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades. Hope. For the next week, Maya lived on the edge of collapse. Her days became a brutal cycle. Up at 4 a.m. training with Mr. Green in the auditorium, breathing exercises, scales, posture. He was not a gentle teacher. He pushed her, corrected her, demanded perfection. "Breathe from your diaphragm, not your chest. Again, your spine is steel. The music rests on top of it. Stand up straight. That note is your servant, not your master. Control it." Then breakfast shift in the cafeteria. Then classes. Then cleaning the hallways, scrubbing the bathrooms, emptying trash cans. Then back to the basement at 4 p.m. for theory lessons. And in the evenings, alone in his office, Mr. Green made her practice the Requiem. Not for the competition. For her. "This piece was written by a Hungarian composer who lost everything in the war," he explained. "His family, his home, his entire world. He wrote this and then never wrote music again. It's not a song, Maya. It's a scream wrapped in notes." At first, Maya couldn't do it. The music was too dense, too angry, too raw. The Hungarian lyrics felt like stones in her mouth. The notes jumped unpredictably from a low growl to a high, piercing wail. "I can't," she said on the third day, her voice cracking. "It hurts. It's too much." "Of course it hurts," Mr. Green snapped. "It's supposed to hurt. You think grief is supposed to be pretty. I'm trying. Trying isn't enough." He stood up from the piano, his voice rising. "What are you angry about, Maya Chin? What makes your blood boil? That you have to scrub their floors? That your mother is sick and you can't help her? That Ethan Blake thinks you're a joke? Tell me. Stop. That those kids upstairs treat you like furniture. That you're invisible. That you have a gift and no one sees it. What makes you angry?" "I hate him," Maya screamed. The words ripped out of her throat, raw and honest. "I hate all of them." The room went silent. Maya was shaking, breathing hard, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Green sat back down at the piano. His voice was calm now. Gentle. "Good," he said quietly. "Now sing." And Maya did. She sang the Requiem, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't polite. It was honest. It was fury and pain, and everything she'd kept locked inside. When she finished the first 2 pages, her voice gave out. She was sweating, crying, completely spent. Mr. Green handed her a glass of water. "Now," he said, "we know you can do it. We'll practice this every day. Build your strength. Control the fire. But this is our secret. This is for you. Not for them." The night before the competition, Maya walked home in the dark, her body aching, her mind exhausted. When she opened the apartment door, she found her mother asleep in the chair again, the television flickering. And on the kitchen table was an envelope. Bright red. Final notice. Maya's blood turned to ice. She picked it up with trembling hands and tore it open. The amount listed inside made the room spin. It was impossible. More money than they'd ever had, more than they could ever hope to have. Below the amount, in bold black letters. Payment required within 30 days or treatment will be discontinued. "Mom." Maya shook her mother's shoulder gently. "Mom, wake up." Linda woke with a gasp, her hand flying to her chest. "Maya?" "Honey, what time? Why didn't you tell me?" Maya held up the red envelope. Her mother's face crumpled. The strong woman who had raised Maya alone, who had worked 2 jobs without complaint, who had never once asked for help, she broke. "I didn't want to worry you," Linda whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Not with your competition. I thought I could ask for more time. I thought, Mom, this says they'll stop treatment." "I know." Linda's voice was so small. So afraid. Maya stared at the letter. The scholarship prize. $50,000. It would cover this. It would save her mother's life. This was no longer about music. This was no longer about proving herself to Ethan Blake or Mrs. Shaw or anyone else. This was about survival. Go to bed, Mom, Maya said. Her voice was strangely calm. Cold. I'll handle this. Honey, how? We can't. I will handle it, Maya repeated firmly. You just rest. Please. She helped her mother to bed, closed the door, and sat alone in the kitchen with the red letter on the table. She thought of the requiem for a fallen star. She thought of Mr. Green's question. What makes you angry? Everything. Everything made her angry. And now she knew exactly what she had to do. Founders' Day arrived. The auditorium was packed. Parents in expensive suits and jewelry filled the seats. The entire school board sat in the front row. Crestwood's wealthiest donors, dressed like they were attending the opera, chatted and laughed over champagne in the lobby. Backstage was chaos. Brooke Ashford, Ethan's girlfriend, the most popular girl in school, was warming up in a corner with her personal vocal coach. She was wearing a custom-made crimson dress that probably cost more than Maya's entire apartment. She looked like a professional, polished and perfect. Ethan was pacing in the hallway, dressed in an expensive suit, looking annoyed and distracted. He was performing too, a brutally difficult piano piece. And Maya? Maya was in a small storage room that barely qualified as a dressing room. She was wearing her grandmother Lily's only good dress, a simple, dark blue dress from 20 years ago. It was clean and ironed, but it was old. It hung a little loose on her thin frame. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror. I look like a ghost, she whispered. There was a knock. Mr. Green entered, wearing an old, threadbare tuxedo. You look like an artist, he said firmly. You look like your grandmother. Like Sergeant Chin. You have a backbone of steel, Maya. Don't forget that. He handed her a folded piece of paper. My notes. Remember, breathe. Support. Tell the story. I can do this, Maya said. But her voice shook. I know you can. He paused at the door. Are you nervous? Terrified. Good. Nerves are energy. Use them. He left. Maya took a deep breath and walked out into the hallway. Ethan was there, leaning against the wall. When he saw her in the dress, he looked surprised. He'd never seen her out of uniform before. So, he said, trying to sound casual, you're actually going through with this. The janitor girl. Maya looked at him. She wasn't afraid anymore. Yes. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. That song you're singing. The Sati. It's pretty simple. You won't beat Brooke with something that easy. It's not about beating Brooke. Then what's it about? Maya thought of the red letter. Her mother's face. The medical bills. Something I have to do. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the exhaustion, the determination, the strength. A flicker of guilt crossed his face. That joke I made, he said quietly. In class. About marrying you. It was stupid. I was. It doesn't matter, Ethan. It does, he insisted. Brooke, she's been telling everyone that you're doing this to get my attention. That you're desperate. They're all laughing at you. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Brooke had twisted everything. Made her look pathetic. Brooke Ashford, you're on deck, the stage manager called. Brooke swept past them, her red dress rustling. She smiled sweetly at Ethan, then shot Maya a poisonous look. Try not to embarrass yourself, dear. Maya Chun, the stage manager called. You're next. Maya looked at Ethan one last time. You want to hear the requiem? She whispered. You have no idea what you asked for. She turned and walked toward the stage. Brooke's performance was flawless. Technically perfect. Every note precise, every run executed with mechanical perfection. The crowd applauded loudly. Mrs. Shaw beamed with pride. But there was no heart in it. No soul. It was impressive, but it was empty. Then it was Maya's turn. And now, Mrs. Shaw announced, her voice dripping with dismissiveness, Miss Maya Chen. Maya walked onto the stage. After Brooke's glittering red dress, Maya's simple blue dress made her look like a shadow. The crowd murmured. This was the girl from the viral video. The janitor. The joke. Maya stood center stage. The accompanist began the gentle, rolling piano chords of Jet Ver. Maya opened her mouth to sing. But something was wrong. Her voice came out thin. Shaky. The weight of everything, the bills, the exhaustion, the humiliation, crashed down on her all at once. She tried the second line, and her voice cracked. Audibly. In the audience, students snickered. Mrs. Shaw leaned over to whisper something to the school board member, a triumphant smile on her face. Maya was failing. In front of everyone. She looked out into the crowd. She saw Ethan, pale and ashamed. She saw Mr. Green in the back, shoulders slumped, defeated. She'd let him down. She'd let everyone down. And then something inside her snapped. No, I will not be invisible anymore. Maya held up one hand. The pianist stopped playing. The auditorium went dead silent. I'm sorry, Maya said. Her voice was quiet but clear, and it carried. I can't sing this song. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Miss Chun, you will sing your chosen piece or be disqualified, Mrs. Shaw started. Then I'm disqualified, Maya said. She walked over to the accompanist and whispered something. His eyes went wide. He shook his head. I don't have the music for that. I don't need it, Maya whispered. She walked back to center stage. She was no longer a ghost. She was a warrior. Mrs. Shaw. Mr. Blake. She looked directly at Ethan. A few weeks ago, Ethan Blake gave me a piece of music. He dared me to sing it. He said if I sang it at school, he'd marry me. The crowd erupted in whispers. Ethan sank in his seat. His father, sitting in the front row, turned and stared at his son with ice in his eyes. It was a joke, Maya continued. A cruel joke. He thought a girl like me, a girl who cleans your floors, could never sing it. You all thought I was a joke. She took a breath. He was right. It is impossible. It's called Requiem for a Fallen Star. It's about rage and loss and grief. Her voice dropped. And it's the only song I have left to sing. And then she sang. No accompaniment. No music. Just her voice in the silent auditorium. The first note was low, guttural, a sound that seemed to come from the earth itself. People in the front row flinched. This wasn't pretty. This was raw. Mrs. Shaw's face went white. Mr. Green stood up in the back, gripping the doorframe. Maya sang of loss. Her voice wasn't a clear bell. It was wounded, powerful, honest. It was her mother's cough. It was the red letter. It was every moment of invisibility, every laugh at her expense. She reached the impossible leap, the part that should have destroyed her voice. Instead, she attacked it. A perfect, controlled scream. A note of such pure fury that the lights seemed to shake. The accompanist was crying. Ethan was frozen, pale, realizing he'd created this. He'd given her this weapon. Maya built to the final passage. Instead of fading, she gathered every last bit of breath and sang the final note. Not a whisper, but a roar. A single, sustained note of pure defiance. She held it. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Until there was nothing left. Silence. Maya stood, chest heaving, tears streaming down her face. Then, from the back, Mr. Green clapped. Once. Ethan's father stood and began to clap. And then the auditorium exploded. Not applause, an eruption. People on their feet, screaming, crying. Maya had done the impossible. 1 week later, Maya was packing boxes in the small apartment. The red hospital bill sat on the table, stamped in black letters, paid in full. She'd won. The Meridian Scholarship. Manhattan Conservatory. And $50,000. Her mother's treatments were covered. Forever. There was a knock. Ethan stood in the doorway, wearing simple jeans and a t-shirt. He looked smaller. Humbled. My father grounded me, he said. Took everything. My car, my phone, my credit cards. He's making me work at the dry cleaner downstairs. As an intern. Maya almost smiled. An intern? Yeah. He held out an envelope. This is from my dad. A fund for your mom. For her treatments. Forever. He pulled out the torn page of music. And this. I think you should have it. Maya took the requiem. She looked at the boy in front of her. Ethan, she said gently. I'm not going to marry you. He smiled, really smiled. Yeah, I figured. Good luck, she said. You too, Maya Chen. He left. Maya stood in the empty apartment, the music in her hands, her bags packed for New York. She thought of the ghost light, the morning silence, the girl who'd been invisible for so long. A hidden talent can only stay quiet for so long. It was always there, waiting for the right moment. Maya Chen smiled. She picked up her bags and closed the door. It was time to be heard. And that's Maya's story. The invisible girl who found her voice. Who turned humiliation into triumph. Who proved that the quietest people sometimes have the loudest hearts. Thank you for listening. For being here. For caring about a girl who just wanted to be seen. If this story touched you, I hope you'll share it. Because somewhere out there, there's another Maya. Someone who feels invisible. Someone who needs to know their voice matters. Until next time, keep listening, keep believing, keep singing, even when no one's watching.